YouTube comments from a video titled, Gen Alpha Can't Read and Teachers Are Fed Up. Part 18.
A This Shit Taken wrote.
I'm 26 with 2 children, one 8 and one 4. My oldest has autism and is in 3rd grade. The change in the school dynamic since I was a kid is insane. Both of my children can read and write at or above their age range, yet my oldest constantly tells me about how the other students are even attempting to learn, and the teachers just let them run wild. I remember being put in the hall for 20 minutes in 4th grade because I was talking to my buddy. The lack of effort isn't just parents, but also some schools, districts, in an attempt to quell any sort of tantrum or conflict. I read with my children 1845 minutes every day, school day or not. It's not rocket science, it's responsibility.
At Retro Kusho G wrote.
Your kid isn't potty trained. Then don't put them in school yet. If you've neglected the need to teach your child how to use the bathroom and change themselves without help, that is not the school's responsibility to fix your negligence.
At JCalum7386 wrote.
These are the same teachers who wanted a longer COVID lockdown and refused to show up to work so they can teach in their PJs in their houses while the rest of the adults had to go to work. Not only that they get to take every holiday plus winter and summer vacation. Sanfu and Teach complaining, generation of Gen Xers, Millennials, and Zoomers.
At Spencer Hickson author wrote.
To all you potty training experts, one word, encopresis. One child I know got overwhelmed by loud sounds to the point that he didn't want to flush. So instead of dealing with that, he held it until he had to go to the hospital for 3 days. The obstruction damaged his nerves. He couldn't feel when he had to go and didn't know how to control those muscles. So maybe stop assuming the parents are at fault here.
At Salty Sea Witch 3 wrote.
Kindergarten kids are often 4 years old, going on 5. 5 to 6 is 1st grade. Teachers are overtaxed, but these teachers complaining are Gen Z, the people who are becoming grown-ups during COVID. They're complaining about having to do their jobs. They thought teaching would be easy.
At Joseph Mendoza N6W wrote.
I know a 7-year-old not potty trained in school, number 1 and 2, and yes, her family gets called almost daily to pick her up. Also, most of these kids are bad AF, and the parents let them and think it's cute.
Capthouty098 wrote.
No more dumbing down the curriculum. Hard times have to hold parents' feet to the fire. The kids start failing or being held back, not a teacher's problem. I know teachers get pushed back, and I do hate that, but something has to change the parents' behavior. Sad state of affairs.
At CallMeAlex69 wrote.
It takes a village is such a poisonous mindset. It gives parents the space to be lazy and neglectful because in their minds, someone else should be doing it.
At Beeson5192 wrote.
My kid is 9 and reads above grade level and math at 7th grade level. My wife and I just focused on being parents. Reading daily. Very little screen time and video games. Outdoor activities. Touch some grass. We are invested in him and don't spend all our times on our phones after work.
At Jeremy Aruja wrote.
The parents are bad, but so are the administrators and teachers. I subbed for 2 days and finished over an entire year of curriculum with them performing math equations correctly repeatedly. A lot of these teachers should not have graduated high school.
At Turnover the Leaf 5505 wrote.
It's BCS they do NOT teach direct learning. Instead, it's a bunch of fluff. I taught my child at home and signed up for social classes, basketball and scouts.
At Roger Hart 3657 wrote.
I started school in 1949. We were taught how to read. We were made to practice printing and writing in cursive every day. We also had flashcards and had to memorize all of the timetables. By 6th grade, we were ahead of most high school students today.
At Barefootenamist wrote,
Parents want all the pleasure of the hookup culture, with none of the responsibilities of raising the kids. Isn't that what they've been told the state would do for them?
At Azazel04B wrote,
Teachers and parents. Public schools should be like charter schools. Money based on performance. Kids should fail if the teacher and parents believe child is not ready. If child fails, DCFS should do a proper investigation into seeing if child is neglected. Parent or parents could lose custody or jail time for neglect. Need to hold teachers and parents accountable. If the teacher sucks at teaching, fire them, and if they teach any ideology or something that is not part of the lesson, they would be fined, possible jail. Parents, if kid does crime, the legal guardian will receive punishment as well. We need accountability across the board.
At Memiself1772 wrote,
Why are children who are not performing at grade level being promoted to the next grade? They should be failed and held back. This sounds like a school problem.
At Breeza1127 wrote,
Look, some of these state laws are making it harder, at least for Virginia. They passed the Literacy Act, and it is actually making it worse. As an example, my kids attend an online public school. It had an amazing curriculum. My kids' scores were light years ahead of their brick and mortar peers, even with having autism. Then the changes came. They cut half the curriculum because this new act meant they had to use these study-based methods that utilize pretend video games to teach reading. And they required more face-to-face online time. The old curriculum had the at-home learning coaches doing one-on-one teaching and having about 6 in-depth book reports a year. Starting in 3rd grade, they did away with ALLB's reports and LC teaching last year. But we still had access to the old curriculum then, so we taught it at home on our own time. This year, we are struggling to get enough reading and report time because of all the face-to-face learning and fake gaming study time, and they cut off access to that old curriculum. The dang government needs to see what their changes actually do, not just on paper. These kids are struggling now because of the changes.
Jim DH8S wrote,
How times have changed. When I was a kid, getting a story at bedtime was a big deal. I wasn't above a bit of misbehaving as a form of blackmail to get it. Sad to think a generation of kids has never experienced a bedtime story.
At John Monroe 7548 wrote,
Teacher from Florida here, I teach 8th grade civics. What I do is I give instruction and tell these kids and teach these kids what it is they need to learn for today's lesson. After that, I give them their work. It can be anything from graphic organizers to multiple choice questions review, and the kids are expected to finish it within a certain time. Admittedly, technology has helped, and there are programs that are great for tutorials and making sure the kids are learning something while I am not instructing the classroom. That being said, the reading issue is big. Also, a lot of these kids don't know how to decipher quotes. I have to do it for them, and it takes a lot longer than it should. In Florida, 8th grade civics is mandatory. They need to pass a final test. It's stressful knowing that some of these kids don't stand a chance. In the 2024 school year, the use of AI on the computer was almost non-existent. I could use computers for tests, and I didn't have to worry as much about cheating. The 2024-2025 school year, I saw it skyrocket. The use of AI went absolutely through the roof. It caught me off guard because I was not getting accurate data on what these kids could do. Add to that kids are crafty and they will ask for help just so that you can use me.
At Jessazanza 2929 wrote,
teachers will be subjected to the ideologies and duties the Department of Education assign, is an attempt to help single-parent homes, which are encouraged through political ideology, agenda, and the teachers' union supports it. You have no choice. Change the ideology. You teachers deserve respect, not diaper fillings. Or Poopy Patrol is part of the job.
Justin Graves 1291 wrote.
A poor craftsman blames their tools. This is what you get when you force children on everyone, when only a third of people are even capable of caring for anything not themselves. If only someone went to years of training specifically to teach children, got half a year off from work, and gets paid more than grades suggest they're worth. Oh, and why the hell did Common Core math come along? If you didn't change algorithms every few years, you wouldn't be needed and a parent could help their damn kid with homework. And on that, homework shouldn't be a thing. If you suck at work, you don't bring it home. All reasons, combined with grading curves for mentally crippled student athletes and chomo teachers, are why they should all be replaced by AI.
Takaniko wrote.
Millennials are all traumatized from watching their parents divorce in their childhood years. That's why we're all into nostalgia, retro action figures, and video games. We're somewhat stunted by that trauma and attached to childish things. There's also a lot of addiction, games, phones, drugs at play here, I think. Also think of what a child does when mom and dad are always fighting. They escape into TV or games. They escape reality too long. They won't know how to live life and be present for their children.
At the Autistic Adversary 666 wrote.
So here's why I have 3 children. Did you know your child's lazy millennial and Gen Z garbage humans in the form of their teachers don't teach them? They just promote them out of their grade, and then they suddenly hit a grade that won't do that, and then points the finger at you, the family, whose kids are in a private school, mind you. We are paying for these services, and they say the onus for my children being pushed through without any learning happening is on our shoulders. The schools don't think they are responsible for your kid actually learning how to read, and wait, it gets better. 2 of my 3 are autistic. One's gonna need help forever, and the other will be able to live an independent life to a point. And both of these kids not only qualify for help, but we have been told by doctors that the system should have assigned helpers to them or a special class, both of which our greedy county has denied to foot the bill. Comes down to money. Money is more important than making sure the humans that will take up the reins of control of our world won't blow it up the moment they do take control of them.
D. M. Transcendent wrote.
My 8-year-old Alpha can read very well. He reads with expressions, fluidly, and loves to do character voices. His boomer grandfather can't read. His boomer grandfather got a free diploma. Guy can't spell, has 0 logic, the vocabulary of a squirrel, and the overall school knowledge of a kindergartner. My Alpha is in 2nd grade, but is on the 5th to 7th grade level already. But he's advanced because we homeschooled him up until 2nd grade, probably. The stuff he brings home from school, we had him doing more than that at 4 to 5 years old. His teacher seems dumb too.
At Marcus Aurelius 117 wrote.
So this is gonna make y'all laugh. I actually dropped out in 2018, only needing 1 PO in T5 credits on the grounds the school environment was in a place where it'd make my at the time severe mental health problems worse. and given I've spent decades reading and writing as a passion and a hobby, I figured I'd be fine on my own. Plus, when I want to be, I'm an insane workhorse. 7 years later, I've held down a job for 5 years, not a great one, but still it's a job at least. And in the next year will make up my 1 PO and T5 credits to get my diploma. The point I wanted to make is I never understood until recently why me loving reading and writing on my own is probably the only reason I'm not illiterate or unable to talk with sophistication. No wonder my GF loves my words so much. The sad thing is a lot of these younger guys don't get why women don't want them and seek out older men. It's because they don't understand the mind attracts much more than the body or the items you possess. It helps being fit and attractive and successful, but what keeps a woman is character, experience, wisdom. So glad I have all of those things in spades.
At Lilicocto 9103 wrote,
I graduated and was done with school in 2019. And to be honest, I am grateful I did. I was in possibly the last genuinely good year of school. If parents aren't teaching their children to read, write, or hell even have proper house training, then that is neglect, something the teachers of these schools shouldn't have to deal with. They can't teach without having to jump through hoops.
At Luke Higgs 6621 wrote,
2 years I was a TA in the UC. It's the same here, but with the kids who have needs. The system is too rigid and works against them sadly.
A Gypsy 141 wrote,
In the late 1980s, I worked in a group home in the Bronx, NY, where there were a lot of educational and developmental issues. One of the biggest problems was the 13 to 21-year-olds couldn't read. At a conference, I discovered something that is now accepted. Whatever is in the male sperm at the time of conception is transferred to the fertilized egg. This means if the father was getting high, this could inhibit the fetus and its development. In other words, there could be children who have been born that were not fully functioning mentally. That generation has bred and transferred their genes on. More than a generation later, we have parents who probably don't read to their young children because no one read to them. They didn't have any positive parenting to mirror. Add society addition to computers and books have been eliminated. As complex as the American form of English is, not reading at an early age can be a bit confusing. Changing fields slightly, I worked with college students and found out that reading and reading comprehension were severely lacking, so I had to teach them that, but I could work one-on-one with each of them. A teacher in a classroom can't do that. I have been chastised for this view, but I said decades ago that people need to take classes and then be tested before they are allowed to reproduce. If you get anything below an 80 on the test, then you shouldn't be allowed to have children. How you aren't allowed to breed has never been worked out by me, but this has always been just a thought of mine. An abstract theory.
A Charles Longwell 645 wrote,
How about teach math? Show them how to solve the problem, not how to draw squares. It's math, not art. The time it takes to draw the squares with real old-school math, the problem can be solved.
A Charles Longwell 645 wrote,
Forget potty training. I just want teachers to teach my grandkids things like math and history. My 3 granddaughters range from 5th to 9th grade. They know next to nothing about American history. They don't know who Mark Twain is. They can't do simple math. I teach my grandkids these things, but shouldn't teachers be doing that? I tell my grandkids all the time to strive to be the smartest person in the room.
A WC_brush wrote,
When I was a kid and went to kindergarten with 3 in Germany, you had to clean and know how to use a toilet, or you weren't allowed to go. But today, oh boy. My wife works in a kindergarten and there are Pempas for the age 6+. Total insanity.
At Martin Budensky 8912 wrote,
I am sorry, but this does not seem as a problem of Gen Alpha but their parents. This just sounds like failed parenting at its best. It's the parent's job to raise a child. And yes, it's not easy or fast. It's a second 24/7 job you are taking on that you simply can't call sick in or take vacation from for several years. Be it from teaching the children the very basics of speech, right habits, bathing, going to toilet, etc., or balancing their fun and education by restricting their access to technology and so on at appropriate age. If you don't want that responsibility or don't think you can handle it, simple, don't have kids, because there is no try here. Once you decide to have a child, you gotta follow through to the best of your ability, no matter what. You owe it to that new person you brought into this world.
At WMER KD 8 Hertz wrote,
Different point of view. How much money does it cost to buy diapers for so many years? Shouldn't that be enough to get your child of them? Not talking about the chemical waste these things are.
At Michaels Now 3536 wrote,
America is so fecked, man. Learning how to go to the toilet in kindergarten. Learning how to read in elementary school. Learning how to survive a school shooter in high school.
Peterson wrote,
People got very stupid by social media last 20 years. And that's why parents these days don't do anything else. Just copy bad advices with stupid latest study for raising their kids, instead asking their grandparents how they raised them. And from that learn something very useful and already proved long time ago. That's result why we have so many kids behind with their basic skills and even more stupid with smartphones in their hands.
At Paul Burleson 86 wrote,
Oh no, the ADHD, the ADD, the dyslexia. I wonder where that could have came from. I wonder if poisoning our children with all those harmful chemicals in each and everything they've ever eaten since they were conceived has anything to do with it.
At Teranaxiomuk wrote,
Even at nearly 40, you can tell who never actually got taught or even bothered. You can speak plain English, and they will dismiss what you say and add a narrative on of things you didn't say or imply. That, or anything you say, they don't listen. They try to figure it out as if there's some extra meaning when they in fact just don't listen. It affects people into adulthood as well. People develop relative to their environment. Technology is destroying attention spans. I have a degree in English literature and few predictive texts since Nokia. My spelling is taking a nosedive. If I'm writing, I often have to remind myself with big words how to spell it. An example is disingenuous. While typing up an email, I typed disingenuous. When autocorrect becomes integrated into computer typing, we will be going down a path of no return. My 4-year-old is very developed. I am very proud. She can count to 20 and recite the alphabet at just turned 4 years old. She's potty trained and wants to use the toilet sometimes, which we have a special seat for her. The only area she is falling behind in is feeding herself dinner, which is minor.
At Shreem 6881 wrote,
429. I'm an older Gen Zer. I have no kids. I do want kids. I wouldn't send my kid to school not potty trained. Not, mind you, because I think I would be built different as a parent or something, but because I wouldn't think that was fair to them. I still remember the kids that would have consistent accidents at school, and how kids avoided them for a long time for that, and I think that was just number one. I wouldn't want that for my kids.
As Zarakeen wrote,
Since when it become the in thing to be so effing stupid? To glorify open stupidity? You, 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 you.
At Ot 74 wrote,
I'm a 50-plus mom to a 10-year-old. So when I was 10, like my son today, it was the mid-T, 8 zeros. The age range of his friends, parents they are also our friends, varies between 40 and 57. Of course, our kids watch Netflix, of course they have a cell phone, of course they have a Switch/PlayStation. They read less than we did 40 years ago. But we had fixed reading time with our son, since kindergarten children here in Germany visit the kindergarten from the age of 2 to 6. It's called daycare in the US, I guess. So having fixed times for reading, and later at the age of 6 or 7, when they start reading on their own, to see that your parents also read a book helps a lot. But don't forget and enjoy time to play without a screen. Send them in the garden, in the forest, bike tours with their friends. Depending on where you live, of course. Keep in mind that our way to consume knowledge has changed in the last years. I grew up with a huge encyclopedia at home. Need something for school? Look it up. I had no internet. This was a thing for me when I started at university. And what about parents today? This includes me, not only the younger ones you mentioned in your report. Today you try to get as much knowledge in your daily routine. Do we read books as often as 20 years ago? No, we have Spotify and Audible. We listen to audiobooks while we are driving to work. What about learning? Use Udemy. Some articles about whatever topic you think about. Thousands of podcasts to choose from. It's easy, it's convenient, it saves time, and unfortunately, it shows children that you can manage your life without good reading skills. How to fix this? Go to your local library. There are tons of books you can't get as an audiobook. If something is right for your child, get it, read it. Hopefully it's a whole series of kids' books, so the reading will get better week by week. You just found a book when there is also an audiobook available? Great! Read the book while listening to the audio, a great way to start. Get your kid up to the attic and let it search between your favorite books of that age. I loved crime stories from Agatha Christie when I was 10, started with S. King at the age of 12. Not what I would recommend my son or, but if this is the only way to get him reading, I am fine with it. He shouldn't start with it, but maybe The Age of the Dragon is a good book to start with. Don't give up, but you as parents have to do something. Or in a few years when they leave school, they will have problems to find a job, because even handouts/instructions or project plans are hard to read and understand. Not speaking of the books you have to read when you want to go to a university.
At Norma Ragland 114 wrote,
Students cannot only read, they cannot write, spell, or can't not perform basic math skills. Then they enter college and it is a disaster. This has been going on for 20 plus years, way before COVID.
At MTR 648 R4 wrote,
This made me think of the book Null IBT available free online, actually where the elites can't read and the literates are looked down on. Are we actually heading that way?
Tanya VR4DZ wrote,
I volunteer in my grandchildren's classrooms, and none of them had classmates who weren't potty trained. A kindergartner who is not potty trained is most likely developmentally delayed, autistic, etc. Those children are supposed to have an aid.
At LG Music wrote,
That teacher who said that parents don't sit down with their kids for 30 minutes a day, well, some of us do that and more, and I don't know what it's like in USA, but in UK, kids don't even spend 30 minutes a day reading and writing in school. It's absolutely shocking how much play they're doing in school. There's even reports coming out about how schools in Wales had been using out-of-date teaching methods for reading for well over 10 years. Remember back in the day when you'd have to come back to school after a break and write about what you did over the holidays? They don't do any of that anymore. It's all copying and writing off the board, which they can't even read. They're just copying letter by letter.
Ed Owain Lloydavies 7107 wrote,
In defense of the kids, the content being taught now is so boring compared to before. Battles are no longer taught in history. Books went from great epics to social commentary, which, though important, no 15-year cares about. Bring back poems about Homer and Yeats, not about some crybaby complaining that people can't pronounce her name right.
At Wenda Roberts 2236 wrote,
The problem is that many parents are not parenting. They are playing with their phones and computers instead of paying attention to their kids. Children need love, attention, modeling of good behavior, supervision, direction, and correction. It is not the school's job to potty train or teach children to respect other people. It is the parents' job. It is hard to teach anything in a lot of classrooms because the kids do and say whatever they want, whenever they want. The classroom is run by the kids. And if you say anything to the kids or the parents of the kids who are causing the problem, the parents get offended because their little kid is perfect. Go watch some old Andy Griffith shows that show how kids used to be raised to treat others with respect. There were consequences when a kid screwed around. The parents back then appreciated being told when there was a problem with their kid because they wanted their kid to turn out right. They truly loved their kids.
Ed Oakstrong 1 wrote,
In most countries, we have a climate where at least part of the year it is warm enough to let a child to be without pants. It allows the child to associate with the feeling with the product. Nappies prevent this happening. I got rid of carpets when I was pregnant because as a kindergarten teacher, I knew how messy kids can be and how important it is to allow them to express themselves. These days, there are so many easy care thermal flooring options that there isn't an excuse to put down carpets with all that microplastic so close to a baby's face, especially if you also wear outdoor shoes indoors. Maybe I was lucky to have an intelligent/advanced child, but it took me less than 8 weeks my 18 meters toddler to toilet train himself. Yes, there were puddles and occasional mess despite a potty being available, but it's no more gross on the floor where it can be picked up with kitchen towel and cleaned with a mop than in a nappy, smeared all over the butt cheeks. Mopping the floor is actually easier, never mind cheaper, and it's so much better for the child's skin. If you have a slightly older child who is toilet trained, the younger ones will often copy them. My grandchildren loved a child seat you put on top of the toilet seat and a step so much that they had to have one of their own at home. Kids are not usually hard to toilet train if you take it as a matter of fact, but they quickly pick up even the slightest anxieties no matter how much you try to hide them. Sometimes the same kids are happy to use a toilet at school but are still in nappies at home because parents are infantilizing their kids way below their age. Modern culture is partly to be blamed. I had to hide the carrots and the knife my 5-year-old child was using when a social worker came to inspect my child was being homeschooled. It was easier than explaining that I was teaching him the safe use and supervising him at the whole time. I was 7 when I was given my own little hunting knife to go and play alone in the garden and nearby forest. A few little nicks were expected as part of the learning curve. I was also expected to light the fire to warm up the house after school when I was 8. My parents would come home 6 hours later. Parents today would be arrested if they let their children to do the same.
Arrobasash. Nicole Jorgensen 2077 wrote,
Wow, how are these kids not potty trained? Is this a thing? Maybe their bladders aren't fully developed? I've heard of kids struggling to get their pants done up after going potty, but this is shocking. The one thing I can't understand is the new verbiage kids these days are using. I don't understand their lingo.
At Mr. Tommy Boy 68 wrote,
Maybe they need to send their kids to Oklahoma. You know, the state with Donnie's Bibles in all classrooms. They rank dead last in the country for education. But we have Bibles in our classrooms. MAGA.
At Everyday Fresh New wrote,
No child left behind turned into all children fall behind. We moved our kids out of public school because the curriculum is so dumbed down. Flunk kids who can't keep up. Make parents deal with reality.
At Lenio 5165 wrote,
I don't get it. By the time my son went to kindergarten, he knew his ABCs, could count to 20, and was most definitely potty trained. I searched out a collection of little golden books and helped him read them, and every night I would read a chapter out of an adolescent targeted the Zant series, humorous fantasy book. These books, while fantasy full of magic and strange creatures which I sometimes had to explain to him, were very silly and full of goofy puns, the IQ vine that would attach to your head, but also boost your intelligence, or Stanley the Steam Dragon, which kept him interested and engaged. So by the time he went to school, he could at least sound out most words and read very basic sentences.
As Cheryl Stafford 2036 wrote,
I taught adult literacy for a few years and was appalled at the percentage of adults with high school diplomas that were unable to read or unable to write in cursive. In our classes, all class assignments and homework had to be written in cursive. Cursive writing is a lost skill. We learned in 3rd grade, but it no longer taught.
As Cheryl Stafford 2036 wrote,
I am a baby boomer and my children are millennials. My son and daughter were fully potty trained at 2. Their preschool required them to be 3 and potty trained before they would accept them. Also, they were both reading above grade level in elementary school. I enrolled them in children's book clubs and read to them and with them. My husband and I both worked full-time. I don't understand the lack of discipline from younger parents. I was also active in PTA and chaperoned field trips when I could. Parental involvement is critical. My heart aches for today's teachers. My best friend is a retired teacher, and my daughter currently teaches high school. She is considering changing careers when her youngest graduates. It is disheartening because she is a good teacher, but there are so many restrictions. They have to teach to the test in our state because the administrators place so much emphasis on scores. If a child struggles, they can't adjust the pace to let them catch up. And parents don't always respond when conferences are requested.
At Flaskerlemeyer 4349 wrote,
My mom read to us until I was in middle school. She took us to see our first Shakespeare play when I was in 7th grade. I used to think I was good at reading because I was just good at reading. Mom, she knew.
At Gideon_Belmont wrote,
It's all fun and games until, a few decades ahead, your surgeon, who graduated through ChatGPT cheating, can't even tell the difference between your liver and your pancreas.
13 Zounds wrote,
I am totally blown away. My children are older, but I cannot believe people are unaware of how hard teachers work. And you know, 5-year-old who hasn't been potty trained, this kind of concerning, I think. People's expectation these days are so entirely out of whack.
At Ann McDonough 6363 wrote,
I hope the people that truly need to see this video actually see it. I homeschool my kids now. We were at a Waldorf school, and we've been to public schools. But both settings had children that could barely read or do math. I have my teaching degree, so I feel comfortable teaching my kids at home. But man, is it scary out there.
At Keysmith 3296 wrote,
And yes, I've noticed. I am a sub for high school students,
And those babies can't read, and most of them failed 1 to 2 grade levels on average. So, for example, a 16-year-old will be in 9th grade.
At Keysmith 3296 wrote,
Hey, I love the information in the video, but we have to differentiate between older Gen Z and younger Gen Z. 1998 to 2004 has the skills needed to transfer to the workforce. It's the youngins I'm worried about.
At Linda Winks 8333 wrote,
As a parent, I felt guilty reading novels often. We encouraged our children to read. As I look back, my children saw me read often. They saw me find pleasure in reading, I believe, as a mother of 5 children who can all read. 2 of my boys are avid readers, and the other 3 boys use reading as a tool.
As Sharifus Maximus wrote,
The parents I have been around have mostly all done this. They deposit the kid at school, and if the kid ends up an idiot, they wash their hands of the whole thing and just blame the political party they don't support. And say things like, what are they teaching the kids in school these days?
At Rancher Extreme 1234 wrote,
Humans suck as parents. Offsee, occasionally you'll get godlike parents keeping your tech time low enough not to kill your span and other stuff, yet most of the time either bare minimum or below minimum. People should be pointing fingers at parents, not the teachers, as teachers get blamed for anything, especially since schools' job is to teach obedience and nothing else. But that's a different problem altogether. Anyway, my mother did the bare minimum, but at the same time she was juggling so much stuff, to be fair on her. But later on she did apologize for not giving me much support, and I understand him not smart, but that wouldn't be from tech. I didn't exactly have access to anything proper tech when I was 13.
At Merbambata wrote,
Technology destroys a child's attention span and their ability to learn. We know that. Yet, school districts constantly ask teachers how they will implement technology in the classroom. Students spend entirely too much time on their Chromebook.
At Lady White Owl wrote,
2 nieces and a nephew who can barely read. Speech impediments that were never worked on, and now it's too late. Need to read at home? Okay, I'll read it, and you follow along with your eyes. What does any of that actually help? Can't even read an actual clock.
At OG Myth wrote,
That's frightening. Around here, you can't get your kid into school without them being potty trained. Also, why don't people want to read to their kids anymore? We read to our child, and they love books because of it. I was read to as a child and have fond memories of it, and it's enjoyable to do now with my child.
As Skipper A 2791 wrote,
I spent 2 days making a booket for my kiddos because they really enjoy the gaming aspect of it. But this time decided to only allow typed answers instead of multiple choice, so they have to do the work, eh? Within the first 3 minutes, 3 students were crying and others were asking me to make the next one easier. The questions were the same ones coming up on our test, and what we had been learning for the last 3 weeks. I've noticed a trend where kids won't even try the work and deeming it too hard. Not a single kid can write. Not to mention even the least bit legible. We can't read. And distractions are too easily accessible on Chromebooks. We need to go back to nothing but paper. As boomer as it sounds, I really do think the introduction of digital learning really screwed over kids.
At Ellie Girl 48 wrote,
When I was a kid, if you didn't have the knowledge or know-how, you were kept back and forced to repeat the entire grade until you had the knowledge to move to the next grade. Whatever happened to this? I think if a child is not potty trained, the child should not be allowed past preschool until they are trained. If the child can't read or write, they should not be able to move past first grade. If the child is not able to do they should not move past second grade. If the child does not know how to write cursive, they should not move past third grade. If the child is having issues learning, then that child should be placed in special education until they catch up.
Ekuyali 956 wrote,
There are so many reasons why this is happening. One big reason is cell phones. Cell phones have replaced parents, education, and everything under the sun these days. Ever adults were sucked into a false life on FB, to worried about posting a vacation instead on enjoying it. Teens are to worried about doing TikTok challenges, being the next kid that went viral, or being a YouTuber. So many other variables that have damaged the education of the youth. But here's one more, maybe, just maybe. Stop moving them up a grade when they clearly are not ready for it.
At Christian Schmidt 1556 wrote,
I recently returned to my public elementary, where I taught for 20 years before I retired, at a total of 26 years. They were getting rid of computer class and changing it into a life skills class. I was told life skills was to teach things like how to tie your shoes and basic manners. Yes, I do think there is too much tech in schools, but I would never get rid of computer class to be replaced by basic skills you need to learn in the home. If you are not teaching your kids these things at home, you are also not reading to them and helping them learn their math facts with flashcards. Do you think the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean schools are doing this junk? I can tell you from my personal time in East Asia that they are way beyond this. We have lost to the Asians because our families are falling apart. The parents do not parent or discipline, and the kids are not made to focus and perform. Please look up the Japanese term gamen. In short, gamen means to endure the hardship. When Japanese kids grumble about the hard work or long hours, they are told to gamen. Translated, cowboy up or get over it and do your work. The teachers are not the problem. The problem is the product sent to us from a weak home environment. Taiwan Normal U, 1988, to Dash 89, MA East Asian Studies, Chinese 1992, Fulbright Scholar Japan, 2003, Fulbright Scholar China, 2005.
At Bobby Aguilar 2453 wrote,
The reason this is happening is because parenthood should be intentional. If you don't have the time, don't do it. If you have big goals, make sure someone, your significant other, people in your support system, can do all the thankless work. Children are not puppies to become someone else's teacher's problem when you can't be bothered.
At L380B3LLY wrote,
700. We have to dumb down curriculum to get kids to where they need to be, and they are not getting there. I think I found the problem. Name one time lowering standards ever produced higher quality. My 20-year-old nephew never learned cursive writing, never learned how to use an analog clock, and never once took home a homework assignment. Not because he didn't try, or because his parents weren't involved in his education, but because it was taken out of the curriculum. Teachers, schools, districts, and government are not blameless. Growing up, one major concern for teachers were class sizes, and not being able to give the one-on-one guidance and attention to students. Now they're not even trying. Why would they if they can just join the TikTok trend where teachers who look like they're in their 20s blame parents and screen time for everything? If you can film a TikTok, you can have a conversation with a student who is struggling, or write an email asking to meet with a parent. If this is a nationwide issue, it's not the parents. That's not possible. This generation of parents spend more time with their kids than any other generation that came before it. My generation's parents didn't help us learn how to read. That's what we went to school for.
At Rachel Myers 7072 wrote,
Have you been to a school lately? Teach your children what they need to know at home. Our school systems are basically babysitting services now. No disrespect to teachers, just the way it's been for decades. Your kid to educate. Sad but true. Reading is a priority in life, so is sharing, so is food preparation, etc. If you want them to know it, then you as parent teacher it.
At Rayo7387 wrote,
Want to see where our society is heading? Just watch a movie called Idiocracy for the answer, albeit a fictional one. But look at Gen A, and there's your answer.
At Jensing6889 wrote,
I thought one of the requirements for daycare, at least it was I was a kid early 90s, and all the more so for being in kindergarten, was you had to be potty trained. What happened to these standards?
At DixieDingo_LBB wrote,
1811. It's 'cause it's the symptom of the larger problem of the rise of fascism. The party currently in control and ushering in New Age fascism literally aims to keep you too defeated to do anything between the 3 jobs and the mouths to feed, distracting you with dopamine hits. Meanwhile, your children get neglected and are so incapable of doing higher level thinking that once they do become adults, they're the perfect soldiers and workers. They don't think. They don't question. They just obey to get through the day and get theirs. It's the American sickness.
At Aniral441 wrote,
We need to make some of these deficiencies we are seeing be part of the kindergarten screening process. Then parents can be notified what their children will need to be able to do by the first day. Get pediatricians involved too.
At Lori Peterson 495 wrote,
Well, honey, if you can't read, you might just as well stay home. Reading isn't guessing. Phonics, spelling, plain old arithmetic, forget the fancy boxes. Then art and music and sports. Our own history and civics. Old history, where did your family live? Geography, do you know where you live? Who invented what? Learning is endless, but if you can't read, you will never know.
At MiniHunt4093 wrote,
Listen, I agree with you on one thing, friend. It is up to parents and the community to fix this. No one is coming to save us, the people, the workers, the ones who make society turn and go. However, the bigger problem are those who built those social media platforms in a very intentional, addictive, and destructive way. The corporations who would suck every single cent of value out of you that you have to work 60 plus hours just to afford rent, let alone probably never a mortgage. The government who supports these robber barons in the self-destructive greed and siphoning every single ounce of value not just from adults but from your children before they even develop the proper protection mechanism in their brain, which is legal. The problem is capitalism. Without getting rid of that system, we will forever be in an uphill battle just for families to live in peace and work in dignity and function in society.
At Carlaspina81 wrote,
Maybe should start by not allowing kids to move to a higher grade. You can't read or do math, you have to stay next year doing the same grade.
Arrobasen, Durand-Roth.
My taxes pay the teacher's salary to very least take care of my kid while I'm out at work, making the money that pays their salary. If my kid poops in his pants at school, you need to deal with it, because I am not able to just jump up from my important job that pays your salary to come over because you can't handle a poopy diaper. If it's not in the contract, then change the contract. Courts. Granted, they should probably pay teachers more, but little kids poop in their pants and that's to be expected, so if you can't handle that in your job, then you're in the wrong line of work.
At Aniral441 wrote,
Be careful. I know it's habit, but I often hear people say Gen Z 13 to 28-year-olds when they mean Gen Alpha 1 to 12-year-olds. They are primarily elementary-aged kids. We started seeing some drop in reading with Gen Z, but it wasn't as pronounced and did not include all of these other parenting inefficiencies.
The Tarnished Tom wrote,
Teachers need to start holding kids back. Screw the parents complaining and frets. If your child's not ready for the next step, then you need to step up.
The Tarnished Tom wrote,
I beat Super Mario World at 3 and red green eggs and ham at 5. So proud of kids today learning how to spell their name by 8FFS.
At Robert Eddy 5595 wrote,
During COVID, I got laid off from my engineering job. I decided to get a job teaching for an online charter school. 3/4 of the students either never showed up, didn't do any of the work they were supposed to do on their own, or didn't have basic skills to even start working on things at their grade level. The worst case was twins in 5th grade that couldn't read at all. They had gone to the in-person location for this charter school the previous 6 years and gotten straight A's. They were good at getting things right using context, but it was very clear they were at about a preschool reading level. Raised my concerns and tried to get them on an IEP and into remedial reading classes, and their mom went ballistic, and the principal basically said I was lying about their reading level because they had been going to that school and doing so well that it was impossible that they couldn't read. Right after all this happened, the CARES Act passed, and I would start getting my full engineering pay if I was unemployed. So I immediately quit this terrible teaching job and instead chilled at home for 2 years with full pay and no work. Eventually got a better engineering job as the CARES Act came to an end. That charter school was eventually sued out of existence for scamming the government by enrolling ghost students that never actually showed up at all and not reporting their absences. One of my bosses ended up doing some short jail time.
At Kalinkrieth 4695 wrote,
You know, with all of the crises going on in the world, I feel like it's easy to overlook this one. However, mark my words. This is going to end up being a catastrophic issue soon. We're going to have a generation coming of age soon that will not be able to function in society at a fundamental level.
At Fallsbat 3574 wrote,
All I'm seeing is teachers more concerned with having TikTok stories to tell them. Teach children. Kids aren't any worse than they have always been. Teachers are millennials now. Has this seriously not dawned onto anyone with a functioning brain? It's children teaching children people.
At Amazing Grace 5692 wrote,
I paid my teacher neighbor to tutor my daughter in phonics this summer between 1st and 2nd grade. They didn't teach it in school, and that was the only way she learned. She had a great memory, and we thought she had been reading. She lived books, and book budget was unlimited. We read every night and during the day too.
Queenla 227 wrote,
It's so interesting that some people still use the "it takes a village" defense while simultaneously burning it down by abusing the people in it and refusing to be accountable for their children's care.
At Fallsbat 3574 wrote,
So it's clear I'm pretty sure the oldest Gen Alpha are like 7 now. My guy kids aren't worse, teachers are lazier. Remember, you are probably the same age as the people teaching your kids, and if you are pawning them off on someone else because you can't teach them, what makes you think someone with the exact same knowledge as you will actually do it right? Grow up, people, and homeschool your kids. Actually learn the purpose of being a parent.
At Alemizzle 415 wrote,
If a 5th grade teacher is complaining about kids not being able to read, some of that blame falls on their previous teachers also. They pass the child on to the next grade knowing they can't read. Gotta stop trying to pass the buck and then complain. I'm not saying the parents don't shoulder that blame also, but knowing the child isn't ready and sending them on to the next level of their education when they've barely grasped the current level isn't helping either. It just compounds the issue.
At Sanawika 7504 wrote,
My daughter was potty trained at 2, so clean even at night,
and she didn't need diapers earlier in the day at 1.8 months old. So, from the time she was 2, she went to preschool in Belgium. Children start school at 2.5, but if they're potty trained, they can go earlier, so she was at school at 2. I don't understand how you let children wear diapers until they're 3. And stop giving tablets or phones to children. A child can't hold their attention anymore. Plus, parents, it's your job to raise your children, not the schools.
At Jeff Allen 3598 wrote,
The best thing you can do so this never becomes an issue is to read to your baby every night from the time they are about 3 to 6 months old, and don't stop till they are too old to have mommy reading, they will tell you. It's spending good quality time with your child, and they actually are learning to read even if it doesn't seem like it. They are watching you do it, and then they will see the words as you read them. They do actually learn from watching and following along with you. Then, if possible, send them to a preschool that's actually a school and not a daycare. That will help them tremendously too. But at a min, you reading to them. We did that either our kids, and they have always been ahead of the other students as they went through school. But it is too much harder teaching older kids that you will bow better trying to teach these things when they are young. Like playing a musical instrument. It's so much easier to teach a kid to play versus an adult. Getting in as much information before they get too old and spoiled is the key.
At Justice Bell 8127 wrote,
I completely agree. I have 5 children, and I'm 32 years old. My youngest is 7. All of my children have been potty trained for years. They were 3 by the time we were done having accidents. It should absolutely be considered neglect unless you have a medical or developmental diagnosis.
At Incident Universe 1 wrote,
I think instead of teachers getting fed up and making TikToks complaining about these children, that maybe they do their job better or have a new teaching method of some kind. I'm also of the belief that teachers need to get paid a lot more and better taken care of too. But you can't or the F act that there is a lot of so-called teachers out there with and shitting on kids because they can't read ITS.
At Wandering Ragabond wrote,
It's depressing. Like, we know boomers are infamous for messed up parenting. So it's expected that we millennials would mess up by overcorrecting and going warai too far in the other direction, by being overly permissive with our kids. How did we arrive at Gen Alphas being outright neglected to this degree, in such large numbers that teachers en masse are being met with this kind of situation? At what point do we collectively find a point of balance as parents?
At Shangra Lodge 9578 wrote,
My son went to daycare in the 90s at age 2, and he had to be potty trained as part of acceptance to the daycare. Why are parents so lazy today? Potty train your damn child. Take the time and put in the effort.
At Blue Tarantula Productions 6179 wrote,
It's not the kindergarten teacher's job to teach your kids how be potty trained. That's your job as a parent, you goofy putz. Also, with a Gen Alpha not able to read or write is just stupid. If they're not willing to learn anything in the classroom, flunk their asses.
At Maliwy 7TD wrote,
I learned how to count and how to read from my dad before going into kindergarten. I remember watching kids learn to count and thinking everyone was retarded because I didn't realize that they were just learning from the start and I just already knew.
At Tivero 72 wrote,
The parents/s are a big problem. But let's not water this down and just blame them. The whole American public education system needs an overhaul, including the teachers. So many public school teachers act like they're elite intellectuals. Please, Most don't have advanced studies in any field other than education. You all went through the same BS education programs, instead of getting a real degrees in real fields. Education should be the minor requirement for teachers. Then let's talk about how 80% of K-12 teachers are female. It's female-dominated profession. Part of fixing education is getting more male teachers in classroom. I mean the good old-fashioned toxic masculinity types, not effeminate Twinkies. Sorry, not sorry. The male perspective on raising and educating children has been largely eliminated from educational philosophies. Is it really any wonder public schools have gone Lord of the Flies in many places? Also, we do not have a funding issue. On average, the U.S. spends over $17,000 plus per year per student. In Baltimore, one notorious school has had dollars thrown at it to help. They spent around $45,000 per student last year, yet none of their students can pass basic math. Money isn't the issue, inefficient waste is. Good teachers, good parents, and good communities who have common standards for behavior that enforce accountability is what's missing. All the device screen time isn't helping either, with a host of other things. Potentially good teachers are being overwhelmed by bureaucracy and admin/principals who want to pre-approve everything teachers do. I don't envy anyone trying to teach in public schools. Before some offended intersectional feminist educator screams, "You don't know what you're talking about." I was a teacher too. I taught at the university level, seeing behind the curtain. I know all too well how inept most education programs are, and how many education majors shouldn't be teachers at all.
As SuperFatCat2525 wrote,
It is not a surprise. 100% of parents give these babies their devices at birth and then ignore them. You can see it every day. Moms walking with a phone in their face and ignoring their kids. Every restaurant, parents are talking away with their kids glued to a device. It's not going to get better. My 20-year-old daughter works with a 20-year-old who does no HOWTO count. Money. The girl is being trained, and it has become apparent the girl does not know the difference between the value of a quarter and a penny. She has no clue what the value of any of the coins are. She works with her again today. I am curious what the manager will do with this poor girl. My daughter called me and said, "Mom, thank you for making sure I studied and learned math." My daughter is a junior at college right now.
Edojanasar wrote,
I was born in Iceland. I grew up learning English at the same time as learning Icelandic. My mother walked me to school for the first day of school. After that, I either walked to school or occasionally took the bus. If we wanted to go swimming, we would go by ourselves by bus to the main pool on the Ane of Reykjavik. All this from about 5 years old. The family didn't have a TV, and I would spend many hours reading the books in both languages and asking my parents, how does this work? What does that do? It wasn't until I was 9 that my family got a TV after the family moved to England.